Happy happy blah, blah, blah. Happy Sunday, Soul Tribe family members, sinners, and other little freaks of nature. Okay, so I said I was gonna come back with a little deep dive on Coca-Cola. However, I had to get some stuff done today. That's why I'm all whoa. So I'm all dressed up still. Okay. So, anyways, I had to get some stuff done today. Stop. Ah. Okay. So I had to get some stuff done today, and I was like, well, I'll come home and do that video on Coca-Cola. But then when I came home, I was sitting there relaxing, unwinding, and more came to mind. In expansion to the video I did about grinding the bread. Here we go. So let's just get into it. It's a lot of writing, brainstorming, like brainstorming. I brainstorm. And then I'm going to try and break it down the best I can. So the first brainstorming bubble is beliefs. So we're going to go back to grinding the bread, okay? And try and keep with that analogy here. Because then it kind of keeps everything organized. In my brain, at least. I don't know about you guys, but whatever. Okay. So Granny's beliefs may have remained latent below the level of consciousness, right? Because Granny's beliefs is an old program, so she's considered below her IQ levels below like the mainstream, right? Because she became a boulder. She decided, nope, I don't want to evolve. I don't want to go with the flow. I don't want to go with the living water. I'm going to be a boulder. I'm going to stamp my time right here in the water, and I am not moving. This is my program. Done deal. Old school. Totally against any form of change, okay? And then we go into when people hit the mid 40s, mid 50s. I myself are in my mid 40s, so I can speak for that. You return to Granny's previously discarded concepts and feelings, which no longer seem so naive, right? And the excuse, what I'm going to use for that, the example, so a new glow, a new meaning, that would be like a 411, right? So no, you're not like this is how old ways get refined, and you can keep tradition in a modern world. Right? You don't have to be stuck in the old world. You can keep tradition in a modern world. So tradition of cooking on a or on a sunrock would be a forno oven or a cob oven or an outside kitchen, right? Now you're not going up and down the hill, and maybe you're heating it with wood, or if you want to try and keep it old school, put some boulders out in the sun and do what you got to do. But anyways, so that would be an example of bringing old traditions into a new world, but not being stuck in an old world. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Don't you love it when you say exactly what you want to say? Mwah! Okay. So then a similar process occurs in the development of a entire society. Okay. And this is called a civilization experiencing a change of life, right? That's when majority are, say, like ascending, right? That's like when like a mass amount of people are on the same alignment and they're ascending, okay? And that is called a civilization experiencing a change of life, a new world. It's like joining hands and saying, okay, let's take the leap all together. It's just a mass evolution in the creation of a new world, right? Now, The next bullet I have here is, okay, freedom of choice. It is completely up to the Ascending Earth characters and official representatives, okay? That's basically where it's at, of tradition, to transmit it to the younger generations, the change, right? Because Ascending Earth characters, intellectual, awake, and official representatives, because they have the pole, right? They can transmute to younger generations because they have the wisdom to understand throughout the entirety of history and culture. Considered archaic, naive, religiously, or morally, heretical, once existed as a once center point. So that's where we're at, okay? It was once a center point to the mainstream of a collective thinking, and in some instances, church-approved morality. Okay, so the only way, basically, if you look at Earth as birthing a new world right now, right? People gotta be walked through the process. So it's up to the Ascending Earth travelers and official people to be able to get the inertia going. Because it's like labor pains. Either you can have a baby in 4 hours, or you can drag it out for 40 hours, but that baby's still coming out. And that's what Earth is like right now. A new world is being born, so you can drag out the labor process for however long you want, or just don't drag it out, because regardless, a new world is being birthed. Period. Okay. Now that brings me into counterculture. Now, counterculture is a culture is like, nope, I refuse to go into a new world. I'm going to stick with the old world. That's the way it is. And that is Granny saying, nope, I'm going to walk up that hill to the Sun Rock, and I'm going to spend my whole day making bread. And I know I have a fridge and a stove at home, and it would be so much easier, but I refuse. And I'm going to stay in the old world, and I'm going to stay with my old programs, and screw all you guys. Okay? Now, that's the counterculture mentality. I'm going to be the boulder in the living waters. I'm going to be resistance, and I'm going to say, it's not going to happen. But the truth of the matter is, the water's still going to flow past you, and you're just going to be stuck. Wouldn't that be called purgatory? I think so. Limbo, purgatory, by choice, being stuck, because you're refusing to go with the currents, the ebbs and flows. You refuse. Nope. I'm sticking my old program. I'm going to be stuck here. And because you're choosing to be stuck as a boulder, you're holding your whole, everyone you're connected to, especially if you're the leader of your household. Now you're holding back a whole bloodline because you want to stay stuck in the old ways, in the old program, and you're going to make sure that your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren for the next 100 years or 200 years walk up that hill and make your bread, even though everybody else is putting in the oven and doing something else in the meantime. Because you're training your family. You're training your bloodline. Okay, so now we're into the counterculture. That's the old school. I'm not going to change. My family's not going to change. And this is just how it is. How is it working for you? Not working at all, right? Well, let's continue. So counterculture. Persistent change throughout the ages since the days of early councils that hammered and orthodox throughout the collective, creating chaos and confusion using mythological concepts to create duality, representing a persistent Counterculture movement, the rock and the living waters. Resistance, non-playable characters, chaos agents, self-known nation. Sums it all up. Well, now we go, because the gear's still going, because time's not stopping for you boulders who want to stay in the world. Time's still going to move on. Just because your old programs refuse to evolve doesn't mean everything around you is not going to evolve. That's your choice. Let's continue. So, now you have civilization has been based on the belief. What is it? Your beliefs create your what? Your reality. So this is the counterculture. The counterculture civilization has been based on the belief, the reality, that the coming of Christ would establish a quasi-absolute line of demarcation between what mankind was before and what was mankind, what mankind became after the historical event of Jesus Christ. Okay, now let's continue, because this is the next bullet over. And trust me, I've researched this. I'm not talking on my ass with this. This I've researched. Well, before Christianity was paganism. Paganism mixed with Hebrew historical tradition and mentality, which was pre-Christianity. Okay? Now, this was considered the preparation. So the paganism mixed with historical Hebrew was pre-Christianity, okay? And this time period was considered the preparation period. Okay. So preparation for the age of Christian truth and glory, combined with intellectual aspects of Greek philosophy. That's how it went. It went from this Hebrew paganism, old historical, pre-Christian, to the preparation age of Christianity of truth and glory, which was combined with intellectual aspects of Greek philosophy. The combination of Christian truth, glory, and Greek philosophy provided a rational framework for the super-rational mystery of the incarnation and resurrection, eradicated from the collective mind manifestation in return, creating a new Christian humanity. Almost all previous books were burnt, and the statues and temples were mostly destroyed. Which was what? A great reset. Okay, so this is a loop. This is what happens. It's a new world birthing. Looks like Mother Earth has birthed a few worlds, huh? Okay, let's go. So then the next bullet over with the counterculture is, what I always say, with deconstruction comes recreation, right? And a new culture is born and imposed upon a disintegrating society, and underground societies form in attempts to sustain and perpetuate the essential features of an almost entirely destroyed past culture to keep intact the core of the old world, the old culture. Granny's old program saying, no, I'm walking up that hill. I know I could do it, no problem at home, but I refuse because my program says no. I'm sticking with the old world. Imagine where the world would be if everybody just said, no, I'm sticking with the old program. Where would we be? All right. So that's one sheet down. Now let's get into this. This is actually what creates the secret societies and occults. A cult is hidden knowledge. That's what a cult means, okay? But the secret societies were actually formed from the mentality of Granny refusing to change her program and wanting to keep hold on the old world. That's what it is, okay? Yeah, making bread on the rock is what I put as a note. Well, let's get into it. So, Granny's culture. I'm going to call it Granny's culture, not secret societies. I hate that word. We're going to say Granny's culture. That's my new word for it. Granny's culture, her old program, refuses to upgrade in order to keep in contact the core of the old program. So she's refusing to upgrade so she can keep in contact the old program. She's so damn stubborn. Well, this creates an underground society with other grannies whom also refuse to upgrade their old programs. We've got a group of grannies that are like, nope, I don't care if I have arthritis in a wheelchair and I'm wearing a diaper. I'm walking up that hill for 3 hours with my granny friends because we're on an old program and we're staying in the old world tough. And everybody's laughing, making fun of the old grannies walking up the hill going, what about? They're delusional. But in their mind, they live in an old world. Well, they sure do, and everybody else knows it too. Anyways, so they create an underground society with other grannies who also refuse to upgrade their old programs. They're the boulders in the living waters, those old grannies, right? And all these grannies of the old programs of paganism mixed with old Hebrew traditions possess inevitable characteristics based on mental and physical toughness in order to maintain within their little tribal unit the old programs of the old world. That takes some mental devotion and toughness, right? Of resistance against change and evolution. That's their stand against change and evolution. We're gonna prove to you by walking up and down that hill to make bread, and you're making no impact at all. You're just getting some good exercise. Anyway, this is the dark side of maintaining tradition. That's the duality of maintaining tradition. That's like too far gone. Duality to evolution and change. That's the dark side, right? Because grannies are really the leaders. So if you guys want, like, we'll call it the Granny Nation, but the secret societies were formed by the grannies, period. I know it looks like the men run them, but it was the women that formed them because they're so damn stubborn, not letting go of the old world. Nope, they don't want to use a washing machine. They're going to use a wooden paddle and a bucket. They're going to clean their clothes because, nope, we're not upgrading our program. I do not want a washing machine. I'm going to wash us by hand, all 10 loads, because that makes me feel better. Like, that's tradition gone wild. So then you got an inbred resistance to change with profound mental inertia. No. In generation, and then so old granny and her old programs, some of them are so stubborn that they won't allow their kids or grandkids to leave the program. Like, you're not allowed to because they're really scared of granny at this point. Granny gone wild. Who runs the world? A bunch of old grannies on outdated programs. Why are we letting this happen, people? Granny Nation gone wild. My stomach hurts. Okay. The visions. Shit. Okay. So this is the bullet I saw before I saw a bunch of grannies going wild. Okay. So you got the inbred resistance to change. It's inbred now. Like resistance to change. So now granny's kids, nope. They're resistance to change. The grandkids, resistance to change. The great grandkids, resistance to change. So granny's created what? A family of fucking headaches. Thanks, Granny. Granny's gone wild. Okay. These grannies have a profound mental inertia with making sure that everybody stays in the old world. Okay. And they create generations dedicated to the preservation of the past, which create singular universes of secrecy and jealousy, and inevitably guards. It's the jealous. It's just all stupid. Take it seriously. So, Granny's gone wild. Let's go. So from time to time, some of the hive mind old program granny tribal members will try to directly or indirectly influence and recruit members from mainstream society. These grandmas are like, come here, I'll make you some cookies or whatever. Come here, kid. And they target members of the collective physical universe, right? Whom are considered to be dissatisfied in life and restless. The collective mainstream those are the ones that are easily poached by the granny nation of resistance. These grannies are poaching these younger generations. They're poaching these the misfits. They're like, come here, kid. See them. All these poor kids have bad relationships with their moms, and maybe no grandparents, and there's these old secret society creating grannies are like, come here, Mr. Insecure. I'll make you some cookies. You gotta do this witch spell for me, though. Okay, Granny. Okay, so these grannies are poaching dissatisfied and restless young adults and teenagers. They're poaching them from like mainstream society. They're like, no, you will not evolve with the new world. You're gonna stay with me in the old world in my angry family. Okay. Now, so grannies are poaching away teenagers and young adults. Beware, people. Grannies have gone wild. Is these grannies want these dissatisfied, traumatized young teenagers and adults to join their tribe of boulders that resist change and evolution. Because they need more people to walk them up the hill to make bread on the stone. Oh my god, so they're making these young traumatize young adults and teenagers. They're slaves, little grannies. They look so innocent, right? Not all grannies, but there's some really stubborn grannies. Some of them are 4'10" and French. Okay, so then the next bullet we go to is restless and dissatisfied people reside in uneasy low vibrations. See how the granny nation gets them? So restless and dissatisfied people reside in uneasy low vibrations. So they are easy to poach and influence through utilizing fashionable waves of enthusiasm, through socio-political crises, distracting and redirecting these young victims. In order for the old programmed grannies to influence and attempt to reintroduce into the mainstream of constituting a vital challenge. they're say that again. Just say these grannies. We gotta think about it. You think it's the men? No, it's the grannies. They're everybody's scared of what? What grandma's gonna say. Grandpa turns his hearing aids off, he don't give a shit. Everybody's scared of what? What mom's gonna say, because dad, he does his job, he comes home, he's a bread maker, he's like, I don't care, leave me alone, I'm watching basketball. So it's the women that narrate the whole shabam. Anyway, so let's go back to this. So restless and dissatisfied people reside in uneasy low vibrations. So it's the grannies that are like keeping this shit in low vibration. Nice, thanks, granny. So they're easy to poach and influence through utilizing fashionable ways of enthusiasm. That's the thing. They'll bribe you. Oh, you don't know, you haven't seen your mom. Oh, fashionable ways of finding those little voids of emotions that need filling. And they're like, I'm just a little granny. We got some good grannies out there. We got some pretty evil ones too. Well, anyways, so they do this through socio-political crisis, which distracts and redirects these young victims' conscious awareness to disturbing chaos, to thoughts of chaos. So these grannies, they sit there and they put fill their brains with chaos and shit, because that's the old ways. Fear, fear, fear. And that's their way of keeping everything in low vibrations, because they're what? They're the secret little narrators of the household. So they decide whether the family's in a low or high vibration. Grannies, some of you should be ashamed of yourself. Let's continue. They create chaos in order for the old programmed grannies to influence and attempt to reintroduce into the mainstream of constituting a vital or into the mainstream culture ideas purposely constituting a vital challenge. Life's so hard. Right? Because it worked for them. So that little fear mongering just seems to keep working. Right? Okay. And to the official mentality of the physical universe collective in attempts to halt the forward movement of evolution and the creation of a new world. Why? This is why these out-of-control grannies gone wild are doing this. They are holding on to that old world, and they're trying to recruit a bunch of people because they know they've brainwashed so many people to be stuck in the old world that if they don't continue recruiting these freaking people into an old existence, then they're all stuck. So it's like misery likes company. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So then let's go on to the next bullet. So these old granny programs of resistance against change and evolution, whose grandchildren and great-grandchildren are out in society recruiting people from the Universal Collective and dragging these poached little victims from evolution backwards into a dying old world. And what do? They create these little chaos agents, because these people that are being recruited, they're just recruited as chaos agents. That's it. Yeah. Non-playable character agents. The top of the top. You want to know who's at the top of all this? It's the old grannies. That's true. So they're chaos. They take these people that are dissatisfied with the way things are, and their way of bringing order to it is they create them into chaos agents and go out and be little delinquents. Kind of like back in, what was it, 18 whatever, with that Mary chick that started all, like, she had like in New York, she like had a training school to teach kids how to pickpocket and shit, and she was a granny and her name was Mary. But anyways, so then Mary's out creating all these non-playable character agents, and what Mary's doing is creating a countercultural movement. That's what Mary's doing. Mary's creating a countercultural movement, because Mary's a granny that's stuck in the old program. Thanks, Mary. All right. Which is inevitable. The only true reason the South No Nation still exists is because of Mary. Back in 18 whatever in New York, I think it was down in the Bronx, Mary was teaching all these young youths how to be criminals. Research it. Her name was Mary something. Mary. Well, anyways. So Mary is the only reason why the South No Nation still exists. You know, she had a little school to teach kids how to be robbers and youth. Look it up. Mary. Look it up. Yeah, I think it was 18 something. What was her name? That's where some of the old houses in New York, there's these hidden things above the fireplaces, because they would take all the stolen stuff and they would put it, there's some weird, I can see it in my head, there's some weird lever thing, and it would hide all the stolen shit in the fireplace. I don't know why I know this, but I can see it. Anyway. So the Ascending North Noders are trailblazers whom embrace evolution and excite themselves at being progressive and on the evolving swing of the pendulum of history. Resistance to change is the silent choice to be left behind in a dying physical duality universe. So, basically, we've hit a fork in the road. Humanity, either people are going to choose to stay in Granny's old program of the old world, or you're going to, and boulders that are going to be there for hundreds of thousands of millions more years, just a boulder sitting there while life is just passed on by. And eventually you guys will all be extinct, because that's what happens. A mountain breaks down to a boulder breaks down to a rock breaks down to sand, and a sand becomes nothing. So when you choose to be a boulder in living waters, you're choosing to live in a dying world where your entire blind is going to go into complete extinction. And the only thing left to say you were here is a grain of sand. That's sad. Anyway, I hope this resonated with at least one or two people. So I love you, Soul Tribe family, sinners and other little freaks of nature. I'm going to go and get out of my done up stuff and get back into a hoodie what make me feel comfy. So I keep seeing myself in here and I just look way too, I don't know. Like a librarian, like a teacher. I'm looking, laughing. I'm like, Sarah. Anyway, love you. Mwah. So what are you guys going to be? Part of Granny's old program nation? Or are you going to join us in the evolving birth of a whole new world? filled with peace and love and harmony and alignment. It's a choice. But either way, planet Earth is giving birth to a whole new world, whether you old grannies programs like it or not. What do I say? Hey, get with the program. That's what I'm labeling this. Get with the program. Choose your program. Bye for now.